Hi everyone and welcome back to another Rainbow Six video. Today I'll be giving some quick tips on playing all the Spetsnaz operators, both for attack and defense, so sit back, relax and enjoy the show. So today's video is part 5 of 5 parts of my Rainbow Six operator tips by counter-terrorist units, or CTU for short. A couple of weeks ago I covered all the other CTUs in their own separate videos, and so now in this video we'll be covering the remaining Spetsnaz operators. If you've watched my previous video on the other CTUs, then you'll know that these videos will focus on my thoughts and tips on playing the operators effectively from each of the original available CTUs. The plan is not to go too in-depth into each operator and their guns, but just cover very briefly how I like to play each operator in terms of their gadgets, and what I think is a good way of playing them to effectively win rounds. The main goal for these guides is to help new players decide which operators they want to purchase first, since renown is precious at the beginning, and also to give them some tips on how to play each operator effectively. These tips may even be helpful for seasoned players who maybe haven't got a chance to try out certain operators, so stay tuned and maybe you'll learn something. As with all other original CTUs in Rainbow Six Siege, there are 4 operators in the Spetsnaz CTU, 2 in attack and 2 in defense, and these are Glaz, Fuze, Kapkan and Tachanka. To start off, let's talk about the attacking operators first. Starting with Glaz, Glaz's strength, being the supposedly sniper class in Rainbow Six Siege, is to engage on his enemies from a distance. Having said that though, with the recent changes to his unique gadget, he has a decent chance in shorter ranges too, with the help of smoke grenades. Using his special gadget that is his flip sight, which grants him long-range zooming capabilities, thermal vision and the ability to let him see through smoke, he can easily kill enemies from afar if you have good accuracy with a semi-automatic rifle, because the thermal sights make it that much easier to identify and see enemies from a distance. Using smoke grenades before attacking into a room would give him a better chance of successfully neutralizing enemies inside the room with his rifle as well, since he can see his enemies but his enemies might have trouble seeing him if he's inside the smoke. Before this change, he would have had troubles with shorter range encounters since his gun is not automatic. So yeah, I would say Glaz is in a pretty good spot now as of this recording, and so he's definitely quite a solid pick. Basically, you typically want to pick Glaz where you know you'll likely be able to have a good vantage point when trying to attack into the objective. Even though Glaz has those smoke grenades for shorter range encounters, some maps aren't as good for Glaz because he doesn't have that long range advantage. So just carefully think and analyze your effectiveness before picking Glaz. Since you want to try to engage enemies from afar from your vantage point if you can, once enemies know roughly where you are, they'll be careful not to run into areas where you are covering, and so you might need to coordinate with teammates to flush them out and make them have no choice but to run into your sights. And finally, don't hesitate to sometimes change angles, even if it may mean engaging in a slightly shorter range, since it might catch enemies off guard enough for you to take them out with your high-powered rifle before they can even react to you. This is definitely an option, just make sure you pick up smoke grenades. So these were some quick tips for Glaz. Now let's move on to Fuze. Fuze's strength lies in his ability to clear entire small rooms and sometimes even entire big rooms with his cluster charge gadget. These cluster charges are very deadly, and so it is highly effective against enemies who are all happily camping in one room, which can sometimes be difficult to attack into if you don't have a way of making them panic a little and reposition and maybe make some mistakes along the way. And so Fuze is very good in those situations. He has 3 uses of his cluster charge gadget, and so when playing with Fuze, you should make good use of those charges and perhaps try to at least down, or even better, kill a few opponents if you can. The best way of making good use of your cluster charges is to make sure there are enemies inside the room that you're about to use your cluster charge on, and then set yourself up in a position where it will be easier for you to take out enemies who try to reposition. Because there is a distinct sound to Fuze's cluster charge being used, enemies often can reposition quick enough, and so you will want to be ready to take them out from a window outside or something when they do. If you communicate with your teammate beforehand, they can do this job as well, and so it is definitely worth it to communicate with them beforehand. Some things to watch out for though is that when Fuze is placing the cluster charge, attentive enemies can actually hear you placing it, and they may fire towards you while you're placing it, so do be careful. If you're playing on the hostage game mode, try to avoid using your cluster charge on the hostage room, especially if it is a small room, because you have a good chance of killing the hostage. It is a common beginner mistake, but try not to do it because your team will probably hate you for it. If you see castle barricades on windows, this is a good thing for Fuze because you can put your cluster charge on those barricades safely, without fear of enemies shooting through the barricades to kill you or your cluster charge. However, you still do have to be careful of Pulse putting a C4 there though. And so yeah, basically with Fuze, he's a good operator for attacking the objective room, so you should definitely try to go straight for that and let your other faster teammates flush out roamers. You'll want to try to scout out rooms first while making sure to not alert the enemies to the fact that you know they are there. Set up your cluster charge to flush the enemy out, and get ready to kill him when he repositions. If it doesn't, your cluster charge should usually do the trick as well. When possible, work with your team with this and you should be able to have some smooth and satisfying wins. Pretty simple. So yeah, that's about it for Fuze, as well as the attacking side of the Spetsnaz CTU. Now let us move on to the defending Spetsnaz operators. Starting with Kapkan, I think that his biggest strength is his ability to delay and slow the incoming attackers with his entry denial gadgets. Even if they don't tend to kill experienced players, it at least provides a sort of distraction that will slow down the enemies, since they need to constantly check all the doorways to not get killed. This is even truer if you somewhat randomly place your Kapkan traps so that it is less predictable. I say somewhat randomly because you don't just want to put it somewhere so far away that they probably won't ever go to, so try to put it somewhere where they might just go through there and hopefully it gets you a kill. If you always put the traps around the objective area, which is not advisable to do only that, it will become very predictable very quickly, and so it will not be able to slow your enemies down very much anymore. When putting those traps as well, varying up the heights at which you put the traps will also help in making it more difficult for your enemy. Putting a trap on an unbarricaded doorway is a good way of trapping enemies as well, since in their haste to get to the objective, they may not see the obvious red laser going across the doorway and run through the doorway to their deaths. If you put some of your traps on barricaded doorways, some on unbarricaded ones, and just be all sorts of unpredictable, your enemies will likely be more wary the next time you play Kapkan again in later rounds of your match, which is a very good thing because they will be slowed down very much. And so yeah, basically when playing Kapkan, just try to reinforce the walls you want to reinforce at the start of the round, and wait till near the end of the preparation phase to put your traps. That way the enemies won't really know where you put your traps, and as I said, vary out where you put them, what height you put your traps, and this should have a decent chance of slowing the enemies down, and even better yet, maybe get some kills. Being a one-speed operator, Kapkan should probably camp in the objective room and defend it after putting his traps everywhere. Kapkan has access to a C4 as well, so you can definitely try to make use of that in some creative ways. If you're curious as to what sort of uses the C4 has, I went through in more detail when I talked about mute in my SAS video, and so you can definitely check out the video, and the link should pop out right about now at the top right, or you can find it in the description below as well. And so yeah, that's about it for Kapkan. Now we finally talk about Tachanka. While Tachanka has been one of the worst operators for a while, I think he's actually in a decent spot now, even though he's still very weak to frag grenades, and in fact just anybody who are aware of where he is when he's on his turret, he can actually be quite effective if he doesn't have to worry about more than one entrance point. In narrow corridors or small rooms where he just needs to watch for one point of entry, he excels in completely locking down the entire area, since it can be quite hard to go against Tachanka's turret with all that shield paneling protecting his head. If he uses the deployable shield to protect his body too, it will be that much harder for enemies to kill Tachanka, since they need to flank him or cook a frag grenade and throw it in there while not being killed by Tachanka first. While it is often nice to have the turret in the objective room, most objective rooms actually have more than 2 entry points, and it can sometimes be quite difficult to find a spot for your turret where you can safely watch over 1 or 2 entry points. Tachanka is pretty weak from the side, and so you will probably need to be careful and also rely on your teammates to protect you from an entry point where you may be easily killed from. So yeah, basically with Tachanka, try to experiment with different turret positions and see where are the best spots in each objective room in each map. Sometimes it might even be worth putting the turret in an adjacent room and protect the objective room from there. If possible, make it known to your team to watch your back from attackers from a certain direction, and in return, you'll be able to lock down a certain key area. Most importantly, don't hesitate to get out of the turret and be mobile again when all your enemies know where you are, otherwise you'll just be a sitting duck sitting in the turret. Perhaps when things quiet down again, you can reposition the turret if it is safe. And so yeah, that's about all I have to say about the Spetsnaz operators. I hope you found the video useful and enjoyed watching it. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and share this video with your friends. More gaming related video content will follow, whether it be Rainbow Six or any other game that I enjoy playing, so be sure to subscribe to the channel and check out my other videos as well. I would greatly appreciate any and all support. Thank you so much for watching the video, and until next time guys, have a great day, keep gaming, stay chill, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.